Mike Pence utterly humiliates and destroys Kamala Harris in the vice presidential debate as nationalist populism wins big. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the best highlights of the debate, how Mike Pence not only dominated but exposed the radical Biden-Harris agenda, and how a new nationalist populist paradigm was ultimately the biggest winner of them all. You're not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Patriots all across the globe. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you as always. If you're new to our channel, we analyze current events, analyze some super awesome conservative trends so we can all live in the present in light of even better things to come. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It would be an absolute privilege to have you as a regular part of this channel where each and every day we together celebrate the inevitable collapse of left-wing globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age. Before we dive in here, let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that is our good friends over at Virtual Shield. Gang, if you're not using a VPN or virtual private network on your desktop, tablet, or mobile device while browsing the internet, then you really are exposing yourself to a lot of potential danger. But protecting yourself online has simply never been easier. And to make it even better, our friends over at Virtual Shield are offering our audience 50% off all VPN plans and all premium add-ons. So don't wait. It's a limited time offer. Click on that link in the description below and sign up for a free 30-day trial to Virtual Shield VPN today. All right, so let's dive right in here. I'm just going to say it. Last night's vice presidential debate was a Democrat train wreck. It was an absolute disaster for the Democrats. For Mike Pence, that was about as much of a substantive slaughter that one could possibly have hoped to orchestrate. When you have the likes of George Stephanopoulos of ABC, a confidant of the Clintons, a swamp creature par excellence, actually going so far as accusing Mike Pence of mansplaining. I mean, when you have a major representative of the mainstream Marxist media concluding that Mike Pence was guilty of mansplaining, that's code for we, the Democrats, just got served. We got crushed. Kamala was a train wreck. And we'll just, slink back into our own little liberal echo chambers and just speak in ways that other people find absolutely bizarre. And make no mistake, make absolutely no mistake, when those left-wing activists disguised as journalists and commentators were saying things like, well, women don't like to be mansplained. Women don't take kindly to what Mike Pence did. They are trying to tell you women how you're supposed to think about this. That's what this is. It's an attempt to tell you how to... It's their own form of mansplaining, isn't it? The media operates by what's called agenda setting theory, which recognizes that political agendas are not set by politicians, but rather by media pundits. They believe that they alone are the ones who determine the politics of our nation and the political narratives that inform and guide those politics. And that involves telling you how to think about the political issues of the day. So that's all that was. Kamala Harris got served. She got destroyed in that debate. But as part of their gaslighting efforts, the mainstream media is trying to twist that obvious defeat into a victory by trying to get you to accuse Pence of mansplaining. It's utterly absurd, and it's not going to work. The debate was, by all accounts, a slam dunk on the part of Mike Pence. He was calm, he was measured, he was polite, he was respectful, he was a policy wonk, and he just systematically unraveled the Biden-Harris ticket as a disaster in waiting for the nation. When Kamala Harris tried to blame Trump for calling the coronavirus a hoax, which has been widely debunked, by the way, he never did that, even by the left-wing rag, the Washington Post, which gave Biden a bunch of Pinocchios for lying about Trump's position on COVID. Mike Pence responded with a zinger. Check it out.
Literally tens of millions of doses of a vaccine before the end of this year. The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. And I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the health of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be proud of the sacrifices they have made. It's saved countless American lives.
Ouch! Now, if you don't know what he's talking about regarding Biden's history of plagiarism, here is what he's referring to. Check this out.
Democratic presidential candidate Joseph Biden today faces a controversy. 3 weeks ago, at a debate at the Iowa State Fair, he used phrases identical to those delivered by British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock.
Biden seemed to be claiming Kinnock's vision and life as his own.
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Gladys the first woman in her family, in 1,000 generations, to be able to get to university?
My ancestors who worked in the coal mines in northeast Pennsylvania don't come up after 12 hours and play football.
8 hours underground, and then come up and play football.
It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
There was no platform upon which they could stand.
The notion that every thought or notion or idea you'd have to go back and find and attribute to someone, I think is, quite frankly, ludicrous.
The problem here is that Senator Biden told his audience he'd just been thinking about these things, and he failed to give any credit at all to his famous British speechwriter.
You know, I was thinking on the way over here. Now, that's a little too much, because, as you point out, what's behind the words? What's there? And a lot of people, the rap on Biden has always been that it's just a surface.
I should have said, to paraphrase Neil Kinnock, it's the only time I didn't, and all the times I've ever used it.
But CBS News found a tape of a second instance.
It reappeared in the New York Times with a new charge, that Biden had appropriated a famous litany from the late Robert Kennedy about what the gross national product cannot measure.
It cannot measure the health of our children,
The health of our children,
the quality of our education,
the quality of their education,
the joy of their play,
or the joy of their play.
Biden gave Kennedy no credit. He has also quoted or paraphrased John Kennedy, Hubert Humphrey, and British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock, all without credit.
Joseph Biden admitted today that he committed plagiarism when he was in law school. He said it was a mistake, but that it was unintentional.
He quoted 5 pages of someone else's work without proper citation.
I've done some dumb things, and I'll do dumb things again.
He was given an F.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been dumb.
To the political community in Washington, it all seems of a piece. Plagiarism at law school, plagiarism on the stump.
So obviously Kamala got served here, right? Her buddy Biden has a long history of blatantly dishonest plagiarism. And if you're that dubious and dumb to steal someone else's words, someone's personal experience, you have no place even coming close to the presidency. That was a fantastic zinger from Pence. Pence also clearly flummoxed Harris, especially when it came to the issue of taxes. You are a fool beyond hope if you think that Biden and Harris are not going to raise your taxes. They are obviously going to raise your taxes, at the very least by allowing the Trump tax cuts to expire, which Biden promised to do. This isn't even controversial. Watch how Pence masterfully handled that with Harris. Check it out.
Fracking, which would cost hundreds of thousands of American jobs all across the heartland. And Joe Biden wants to go back to the economic surrender to China, that when we took office, half of our international trade deficit was with China alone. And Joe Biden wants to repeal all of the tariffs that President Trump put into effect to fight for American jobs and American workers. Joe Biden says democracy's on the ballot. Make no mistake about it, Susan. The American economy, the American comeback is on the ballot with 4 more years of growth and opportunity, 4 more years of President Donald Trump. 2021 is going to be the biggest economic year in the history of this country.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Senator Harris.
Well, I mean, I thought we saw enough of it in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000 a year.
He said he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait,
I'm speaking.
It'd be important if you said the truth. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that gave the average working family $2,000 in a tax break every single year. Senator,
that is absolutely not true.
Is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm talking now. I'm talking. Well, then good. Tell the truth. Boom! That's what we call Mike. That is a Mike Pence drop, right? She was totally flummoxed. She was absolutely blindsided by what Pence said. It looks like she didn't even consider that allowing the Trump tax cuts to expire is a tax rise, right? Or a tax hike. And she's like, holy crap, that's true. How did I get out of this? You know, and that explains her sort of nervous Hillary Clinton laugh. Absolutely brilliant on Pence's part. I mean, he reduced her to the old Ross Perot, you know, can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish myself? I am talking now. Can I finish? Can I finish? But one of the most telling moments in the debate was when Pence confronted Harris directly as to whether she and Biden were going to try to stack the Supreme Court, right? Add 2 more seats to the court precisely because they lost. Watch this exchange and you will not believe how Harris continues, like Biden, to absolutely refuse to answer the question. Watch.
How would your administration protect Americans with pre-existing conditions to have access to affordable insurance if the Affordable Care Act is struck down?
Well, thank you, Susan. But let me just say, addressing your very first question, I couldn't be more proud to serve as vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. And this is another one of those cases where there's such a dramatic contrast. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. Late-term abortion. They want to increase funding to Planned Parenthood of America. Now, for our part, I would never presume how Judge Amy Coney Barrett would rule on the Supreme Court of the United States, but we'll continue to stand strong for the right to life. When you speak about the Supreme Court, though, I think the American people really deserve an answer, Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed? I mean, there have been 29 vacancies on the Supreme Court during presidential election years, from George Washington to Barack Obama. Presidents have nominated in all 29 cases. But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more. In 1864...
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
No, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Okay. In 1860...
Now, besides being a beautiful defense of the pro-life position, Mike Pence directly asked Harris the question. Could not have been more clear. If Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed as a Supreme Court justice, are you and Joe Biden going to move to add 2 more seats to the Supreme Court? And she blatantly avoided answering the question. It was just too good on Pence's part. I mean, he made her look foolish. Well, that's not hard to do. Now, in my opinion, we've only scratched the surface. Many commentators are actually missing the best part of the debate. But we've got something for you podcast fans out there. We recently launched our brand new Turley Talks podcast, which tens of thousands of you have been downloading. I can't thank you enough for that. And we're so excited to share with you that we are now the 14th most downloaded podcast for American news on Apple Podcasts. We've jumped 20 slots just in the last few weeks. It's really amazing. And we're now officially in the top 20 of American news broadcasts. And we have you to thank for it. But you can help us actually become the #1 conservative news and commentary podcast by simply clicking on that link below in the pinned comments section and signing up to download our new podcast twice a day, every day. You can take Turley Talks anywhere you go. So make sure to click on that link below, sign up for our Turley Talks podcast, and let's make it to #1 together. All right, gang. So you ready for the best part of the debate? Here's what I think. Think it through with me. How much time did Pence and Harris spend talking about the wall being built on the southern border? How much time did they spend talking about illegal immigration or so-called undocumented workers? How much time did Kamala Harris spend excoriating President Trump for his immigration policies? How much time did she and Pence spend arguing and advocating free trade policies? Free trade, right? That'll send our manufacturing industrial base overseas. How about zero? Gang, that's what's called winning. We've won. Those of us dedicated to nationalist populism have won. We've won at what's called the meta-political level. Now, both parties are treating border security and economic nationalism as the default position of the United States. Both parties are embracing the policies that once characterized the sole positions of the so-called far right. This is precisely what pundits, particularly in Europe, have been noticing of late. Policies that once characterized a fringe so-called far-right populism are now becoming the new normal. And we just saw that on display last night. In many respects, this is Pence's audition for 2024. He was a tour de force of substance and policy on the one hand and calm and gracious demeanor on the other. He's going to be a very, very formidable player in the future, the new nationalist populist Republican Party, the Trump Party, with all of the neocon never-Trumpers defecting, hopefully forever, over to the BLM and Antifa-infested Democrat Party. Never forget that, by the way. Never-Trumpers like Bill Kristol and John Kasich and Meghan McCain, they have more in common with Antifa and BLM than they do with Donald Trump. So don't ever forget that. Mike Pence has been the most loyal and most encouraging and fiducious vice president imaginable in this whole process of a massive political paradigm shift from within the Republican Party, the shift from a neocon-dominated globalist party to a thoroughly nationalist populist and traditionalist party, the shift from the party of the Bushes to the party of Pat Buchanan is one of the most significant political developments of the last several decades. And Mike Pence is definitely at the helm of that paradigm shift, and he is to be rewarded in 2024 for that, I believe. Now, before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. And you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on how a Democrat civil war has broken out as BLM activists accuse Biden of representing, you guessed it, white supremacy. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.